brake day today on the old Dodge. Finally managed to find the right cylinders after 2 or 3 different returns and going through all of that.
Alright, but how did we get to this point?
Nothing smells better than gear oil.
And that removable axle is the reason why it's called a full float. You have to bend the tabs out of the way to get the keeper out for the inner and outer nut.
I need to back off the brakes. It's been leaking on the cylinder. So it's got a feel for that little wheel. One direction, the emergency brake won't let you go the other way. So you'll be able to feel it. Here we go. So from there, just pull it off. And you can see the cylinder's been leaking, so we got to change that. Luckily the hardware came undone, so got to fix all that. Alright, so now I got to get this brake line free. I've been spraying it for a couple days with penetrant. So just so we don't break the line, we're going to kind of take it loose, make it tight. Try to get this thing so that it'll come off without ripping everything. Alright, so I'm suggesting you keep it soaked, and then once you get it moving, I can already see with my hands in here, but I'm not trying to take it out all at one time, just back and forth, keep it lubed up so you don't twist the line off, and then just break the rust free, and we'll take it off and just unscrew the cylinder the rest of the way, and that way we can get it replaced, get everything all bled, and back on the road. Alright, so get your hardware back on there, all your springs and everything.
Now don't forget to pack the bearings. You're going to get gear lube up in that area as the vehicle runs, but it's going to take a little bit for it to work all the way out there. And packing a bearing is pretty easy. You just get some grease in your hand. It's pretty messy, and slowly just work it up in there until you see it come out the other side of the rollers. It's easy, but it's pretty messy.
So word of advice, these nuts are hardened. I've had to sand off. The other one's really bad, the big hammer marks. But it's pulled a burr up on the shaft, so I've got to break out the old thread file and work that down.
Just take your time, work the file around it, try the nut, and just rinse and repeat.
But if you're working on one of these and you don't have the proper socket, don't use a punch or a chisel. That's what's happened to this. I've had to sand all that stuff down. And just in case anybody needs it, that kit's $80 at Harbor Freight. Here you go, right side. It's got all your serviced drive sockets. Trust me, it's worth it. Don't use a chisel, please. Someone's got to follow that mess. Alright, so let's get this thing back together. So trying to find gaskets. I'm tired of waiting for a day or two for shipment, so it was a nice easy punch out. So how do we make gaskets like that with the holes in the right locations? Well, let me show you. I'm just using this. It's a rubberized cork gasket material because the gaskets were going to be, everything so far this old Dodge has been a couple weeks out. The inner and the outer. Cut this real quick and I'll show you how I lay out the bolt holes. Now what you're going to find on these axles that there's going to be hammer marks on the outside edges. Now you don't want to go crazy with air tools. And I love these Sharpies. They're not Sharpies, but they're from long nib marker. So I use a shim punch. So what I'll do is I'll put this in there and I'll look through the 1/2 inch hole. I'll line up the mark. It should be good. Now for these axles, there's these little tapered inserts that go in around the studs, and that's what locates it. Put these little caps back in. Nuts and lock washers on.
Don't forget to bleed that new cylinder. I like to vacuum bleed, and I'll leave a link above for that. Alright, so that's Dana 60 rear brake cylinder change out, how you take the axles out. Now that's what they call a full float rear axle, so that's where that comes from. Once you take the axle out, then you take the drum off. It's a pretty cool setup on these. So I hope you're enjoying the content on this old Dodge truck. And we haven't forgot about our old Jeep here. So one thing this is getting is a new hood here soon. We had some hail in the area the other day, and well, the old hood took a beating on this. Hope you're enjoying the content on this old Dodge. And if there's something else you want to see, let me know. So we got some fabrication coming from this old beast as well. So we know we're gonna have to rewire this thing. It's kind of bad in there. I don't want to do all this work and have it melt to the ground. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. We'll have some content on Jeep coming back out, but hope you enjoy the old vehicles as well. And I'll see you here for some fabrication work.